excellent. But rocket stoves, if you're not familiar with it, they're really efficient cooking method. It's used a lot in developing countries, and it uses very little wood, and it transfers the heat quickly into the cooking utensil, the frying pan or the Dutch oven that you're going to be using. And one of the reasons that I wanted to make one as opposed to purchasing them, they're around $120 a piece, and I wanted 3 of them because I wanted to do more than one thing at a time. And you know, you're talking around $500. So I was looking into this, and I had some buckets, and I had a sewer pipe hanging around, and the only thing that I had to buy was, we're going to be using perlite, or you could use vermiculite, and mixing it with the concrete at an 80-20% ratio. So it's going to be 80% either perlite or vermiculite, which is, it's going to act as an insulator, in 20% of concrete. We're going to be literally making like a insulated concrete or a fire brick. And it's going to center all of our heat into the chimney, and that's literally what we're cooking in, is the chimney. And that's why we get the rocket stove. And you'll see more about that if you're not familiar with it in a moment. The pipe that we're using is 4 inches. 4 inches across the diameter. And this is the only critical area, really, is they want the diameter of the pipe to be 1/3 the length of the chimney. So in our case, we're using a 4-inch pipe. That would mean our chimney is going to be 12 inches long. The other pipe that, the smallest pipe that I would go down to is probably a 3-inch pipe, and that would be 3 times 3, or 9 inches in length of the chimney. You don't want it too long. The first problem that we kind of encounter here is the curvature of the bucket. So what I did was I took a piece of cardboard, laid my pipe down on it, traced around it, and cut out the circle. Again, using a 4-inch pipe, we're going to come down 12 inches. And that's, again, the length of our chimney. Okay. Put our circle on the bucket. And now it's easy for me to trace around it. Okay. Now if we had, again, a 3-inch pipe instead of a 4-inch pipe, we'd mark it at the 9-inch mark and put our circle right to the bottom of the 9, just like that. These are our 2 forms. What I did was I cut them at a 45-degree angle. Okay, so they'll fit like this. Put a little bit of concrete in here. Stick the bottom form in, like so. Okay. Carefully center it into the center of the bucket and pack more concrete around it. They weren't real specific about the concrete. When you go to look at concrete, there's thousands of different varieties. And I had heard somewhere that a lot of these have a problem with cracking, so I got crack-resistant concrete. Fiber-reinforced concrete mix. I don't know. So we're going to be mixing 20% of this with 80% vermiculite. And I'll see you on the flip side. So the way I calculated 80% perlite to 20% concrete was 4 full coffee cans, or 4 full whatever you're using, of perlite. This is perlite. To 1 coffee can of concrete mix. Okay, after it's all mixed together, they want not a real wet, they want a pretty dry mix. Okay, we're ready to put it in the bucket. So that our form will be easily released, I just put a little motor oil on it, and now I'm ready to stick it in the center of the bucket. I'm just going to stick it in here like this. Very carefully. And I'm looking for the point of it to be right in the center of the bucket. All right. Can you see that? Okay. Now I need to fill the rest of it up with concrete and tamp it as I go along. Got to put more motor oil on the other form so it'll be released easily. Making sure that it's kind of in the center. That's what I'm looking for. You can fill the rest with concrete. Passed since we put the concrete into the bucket. Let's see if we can remove these. Okay. Now we're going to set the stove into a plastic garbage bag for 1 week to slowly cure, and then we'll take it out of the bag and let it cure for another 3 weeks before we use it. Well, the rocket stove has cured and has come out of the forms, and I had put tile in here as a test run, and it broke. It got too hot, and to keep the pot elevated, I just took 2 pieces of rebar and cut it to 2 small pieces. If you haven't seen the previous video on how I made that, I'll show you real quick, just a quick overview. I made it in a bucket, 5-gallon bucket, and to remove remove it, I just cut it. And if I want to use this again, I'll just duct tape it. And I took sewer pipe and it went in like this. So, right, cut it at a 45 degree. And with it in there, I just packed concrete around it. And I used a high strength concrete that was 80, or it had fiberglass reinforcement in it. And I used 80% perlite to 20% concrete in my mix. And I tried to make a fire concrete brick is what I have done. This is all that's required to make the stove. It's just a 4-inch piece of pipe, 5-gallon bucket, very small amount of concrete and perlite. And this is what it looks like after it cures. And the reason people like this so much is you can't store enough propane or enough kerosene or wood on hand to cook with, and this just requires twigs. And let me show you how we get it started. What I do to get it started, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I just stick them in here just to get a fire going. And then I'll go and burn wood through the bottom, but just right now. And I use the old cotton ball method. You take a little petroleum jelly, okay? And it's the petroleum jelly that's the fuel. And I open up the cotton ball just like that. And I take a knife and a piece of flint. And I don't use the knife at the most rigid part. I find that it flicks better at the end like that. And I just flick it. See how quick that was? It lights every time. And I like to throw a little bit, nobody else does this, but I just want to make sure that it burns. I throw another one in there. Let's get my fire going. But it starts every time this way. Alright, that's all there is to it. Fire start. Alright, we have the stove warmed up, and I've got 2 cups of water in here. We're just going to do the simple boil test and see how long it takes to boil the water. It's almost a boil. Let's give it a minute. Oh, it is a boil. It took approximately 2 minutes for a rolling boil.
If you would, I'll catch you on the next one. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this, and share it with people if you would. Let's get those numbers going to the million. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.